dying. It is one thing to die suddenly, without a say in how you go. But what if it happens slowly, over a long enough period of time that you don't want to wait for death? That is one of the concepts at the heart of physician-assisted suicide, where a physician provides a patient with the means to kill themselves. End-of-life decisions and the questions associated with them are a point of interest to me. What do you as a physician do when, morally speaking, there isn't a clear-cut right or wrong answer? What is the most appropriate choice you could make in such an ethical dilemma? Do you abide by broader medical and legal standards, or do you stick with your own moral values? Physician-assisted suicide is nothing new, and neither is the debate surrounding it. In the US, efforts to legalize physician-assisted suicide date back to the 1900s. However, it was only after the 1990s that those efforts started to gain traction, though physician-assisted suicide is still illegal in most of the country, not to mention the controversy associated with the practice even into the present day. To understand why the issue of physician-assisted suicide is so thorny, let's look at both sides of the argument. Advocates of physician-assisted suicide have varying arguments in its favor. Some, like the late Dr. Jack Kevorkian, argue that it allows dying patients to maintain control over their deaths and avoid the suffering associated with many terminal illnesses. To a patient that is facing a long, debilitatingly painful death from an incurable condition, a quick death via something like medication overdose may seem like a better option. A physician might agree to the act because they feel it is the best option that they, as a healthcare provider, can take in such a situation. There is also the argument that physician-assisted suicide should be legalized, if only so patients will have the option on the table, ultimately leaving it up to personal choice. Opponents of the practice have varying arguments against it as well. Some, like the American Medical Association, argue that it is antithetical to a physician's duties. A physician is to protect the well-being of patients, and letting a patient die goes against that obligation. Others argue that allowing physician-assisted suicide could lead to uninformed patients dying, or those from already vulnerable populations being coerced into killing themselves. A number of disability rights organizations, such as Not Dead Yet and ARC of the United States, object to physician-assisted suicide on these grounds. They fear that broader legalization of physician-assisted suicide could make way for legalization of euthanasia, a practice associated with eugenics and when disdain for marginalized communities turned deadly. While I cannot answer the question of whether physician-assisted suicide is morally right or wrong, I hope that I have at least enlightened you, the viewer, regarding the matter and the debate surrounding it. Thank you for your time.